All right.
Hello and welcome to Moline Method Mic'd. I am your host, Landon Moline, husband to the Kelly Moline.
And I'm Kelly Moline. I wasn't expecting you to do the intro.
Sorry.
You just jumped right in there.
Take control.
That works. I'm Kelly Moline. I'm a licensed pharmacist, functional medicine consultant, wife, and new mom to our 4-month-old girl.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So last episode, we talked about brain fog and all of that. And so we promised this episode, we would talk about the birth story, which if you know a new mom, I would encourage you to ask their birth story because you are preparing literally 9 or so months, however long you know you're pregnant, for this birth. And I understand there's a lot of people that are like, oh, whatever the birth, whatever happens, happens. And they're not putting as much into it. I mean, it's still so significant part of your life. And you have to put a lot of effort, whatever method you choose, and it's scary and all that. But I encourage you to ask them their birth story because you're preparing and you're doing all of the research, and then your birth happens. You're so proud you brought a human into the world. And then some people just don't even ask.
You said if you're a new mom, did you mean if you were expecting?
If you know a new mom,
Oh,
and they have their baby and you're going to go visit them and the baby, remember the mom, remember that they just went through all of that, and ask them their birth story as you're trying to hold their new baby, or help them with some chores. That's also very helpful. Bring them food.
bring them food. The dad will appreciate it too.
Yeah. So yeah, since we're in control of this podcast, we just get to share our birth story.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'll let you go with it.
Oh, okay. I want to hear your perspective on it all too, but we'll jump in. Okay. So, we were planning a home birth. We were planning a natural birth. So I kind of want to get to how we got to that decision, because we didn't start with that decision.
Mm-hmm.
We started wanting the hospital birth.
Yeah. I mean, originally that might have been more me than you. I don't know, but I I wanted a hospital birth just because that's what I was familiar with, and I thought, if something goes wrong, they have all the tools there to be able to handle any kind of emergency. So I just felt more comfortable in that situation. So I guess that's why I more leaned towards like being in the hospital for it.
Mm-hmm. And we didn't know anyone who did a home birth at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think hospital was just all we knew.
Yeah, I think it's becoming more common to have home births or use a birth center, but yeah, everyone that we knew at the time pretty much had hospital births.
Yeah. It's what you see on TV. It's what our parents did. So yeah. So during the first part of our pregnancy, first trimester, first trimester up to 20 weeks, we kind of started considering it. I was seeing videos and stuff of people talking about a birth center and how much of a difference it was. It was mostly moms that were on like their second, third, fourth child. And they compared the birth center or even home births compared to like the hospital birth, and how much of a different experience it was, and so much better for them. So that's when we started talking about like possibly, it still felt a little like crazy at the time, but we were like, oh, maybe on our second one, we'll do something like that. Yeah. And then I just we made that decision. We did make that decision. And then I kept getting this overwhelming feeling of that wasn't the right choice. We did pick a doula because before we changed over, we picked a doula because I wanted that support to have the best chance of having a natural birth. And so the doula helps emotionally and physically, honestly, too, because she was helping me like through the pain of my labor, and she was the reason I was able to do it naturally, in my opinion. I wanted a more natural birth, so I was not looking for pain medication, the epidural, and I was hopefully avoiding the C-section. So
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, where we were I mean, again, we have two different, we're coming from two different places. I think originally, like I guess my main concern throughout the entire pregnancy process was like your safety. And so I was thinking safest place, hospital. I wasn't very educated in like what a home birth could provide as far as those safety provisions and stuff like that. And I think you're originally like you wanted safety too.
yeah.
But I think the more we learned, you wanted to have a natural birth as much as possible. And yeah, I think the more we took a class that was really helpful. I highly recommend taking a birth class. Just, I mean, from the dad side of it, it's just it's nice to know what the mother's body is going through you at certain times, so you can get more comfortable with it. It's less nerve wracking because you kind of know, what's happening. But then we were kind of educated more on what like birthing centers and home births, like the process for those, and it alleviated a lot of my concerns as far as safety goes. But like one of the things we came to the conclusion of was that if things are readily available to you in a hospital, like medication or different things like that, you might be more apt to go for those in the moment when like your body is.
Yeah, let me back up. Okay, so I say I want a natural birth, and I hear a lot of moms
And you want to
and
explain what a
dads.
natural birth is?
Yeah, so I wanted to do a birth without medication,
Yeah.
basically. But let me explain why. Because probably a year or two before my pregnancy, so I was pregnant before and we had a miscarriage. And so at that pregnancy, I think I would have made different decisions, mostly because I really wasn't aware of the options. But I've heard of people like scheduling C-sections, and there are reasons that people schedule C-sections, but people compared scheduling a C-section versus an emergency C-section, and they're like, it's a night and day difference. A scheduled C-section is way better. And so I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. If you're going to end up having a C-section, have a scheduled C-section, which I still agree with. A scheduled C-section does seem a lot better and a better recovery and a better experience in general. But I hear a lot of like, you're going to get a baby regardless. So it doesn't really matter how you do it. Now, what I learned, especially with my functional medicine training, is how a vaginal birth can really help the baby so much more, because you are giving them your gut health through that. And so they are gaining that gut health and having that immune system right out of the gate. Rather, a C-section, you do not get that benefit. So if you're going to do vaginal or C-section, and I think most people would rather do vaginal just to not have a major abdominal surgery as well. But people don't always get that option. What I started learning is there can be a cascade in the hospital where they may try to plan out when you're having birth, your body isn't ready quite yet, or first time moms, they take a little bit longer to go through that labor. So we need to keep things moving. So then we start medication called Pitocin, which makes the body do the contractions, but it's not natural contractions. It's a synthetic. So it's so much stronger and so much more painful. And then that leads to people asking for the epidural when they may not have planned to have the epidural. And the epidural basically numbs everything from like the spine, wherever you're placing that epidural in the spine and down. So you can't feel it, or you can't feel it as strongly.
And a lot of times they opt for that because it isn't, when you get Pitocin, aren't the contractions a little more painful and extreme?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's what I've heard. And people who've had it both ways, they say Pitocin contractions are the worst for that reason. So then they get the epidural. And some people do plan to get the epidural and some people don't plan to get to the epidural. But the epidural can, although it numbs you, it can also slow things down. So as you were gaining traction, you were dilating more, you were furthering this labor, and then all of a sudden you like start to slow down. And then there can be a point where, okay, nothing's moving and we need to get going, whether the baby's heart rate is dropping, because that's one thing that once you get the epidural, now you're required to have the continuous monitoring, so they can monitor the baby's heartbeat all the time. And the baby's heartbeat is going to naturally go up, go down, because they're going through this labor and delivery as well. So that's natural, but you're going to see those fluctuations more when you're continuously monitoring. And so it might seem like more of an emergency. Hey, the baby's not doing so well. We need to go into C-section.
And you're more likely for intervention.
Yes. So that's where the intervention, and there are studies that show once you get the epidural, you have an increased risk of C-section. And I think it kind of ties with that. You're doing that continuous monitoring, so you know more things, so people are more apt to do the C-section. So then we go to C-section. You weren't planning that. Could be scheduled, could be emergency. You get this abdominal surgery. You have a longer recovery for the mom, and then also the baby doesn't have that gut health because they're not going through the vaginal canal, which they're like ingesting all that stuff and stuff too to get to their gut to have good gut health. So my main reason that I chose the route I chose was I really wanted to have a vaginal birth, a natural birth, and trying to get it without medications because I didn't want to go through that cascade. That's why I hired a doula right away. Her name is Mandy. She was amazing.
She was awesome.
Like 100 times over, I'd hire again. I'm excited for, hopefully we have a second baby someday and we're going to have her again. And people ask me, because I'll get to kind of how we ended up in a hospital anyway because our baby came early, but people ask me, would you still do a doula if you ended up in the hospital? Absolutely. She was amazing. She was really our advocate because we were first-time parents. And so the nurses and everyone's asking you a bunch of questions, and you have the intensity of everything that is happening, but she's done it before. Obviously, doulas are more experienced, so they're able to jump in and tell your birth plan and all of that.
Yeah, she was kind of like your personal attendant. And I think a lot of times too, even for their like first time dads too, it was nice having someone else there that knew what questions to ask and could even give me tips on like, okay, make sure she's got water, do this, do that, you know. So it was super helpful to have that help to make sure that I'm doing what I should be doing to be the most useful I could. Because as a dad, you're just kind of there waiting for it to happen, and like you can't be a huge part of it sometimes, but doing what you can to help and support is really nice to be a part of it. And she didn't just like take my place doing that stuff. She coached me on like what I should be doing, so it was super helpful. And I think, I mean, doulas probably have different styles, but that was super helpful. But I mean, in general too, I want to back up, and like some people opt for C-sections and stuff like that, and that's not a bad thing if that's your choice. We're just saying personal preference. You felt like your best chance of having a natural birth were going to be at home or in like a birthing center, and so that's where you went for it. And I think too, like that some people aren't comfortable in hospitals. So like I know some people that have natural births like outside of the hospital just because they don't feel as comfortable in a hospital. Like it's just not the most relaxing environment for them. And I think the more comfortable you are, the easier it is to have a natural birth too.
For sure.
But yeah,
there's an oxytocin component of birth. So oxytocin is a hormone when it's like the love hormone. So oxytocin helps your contractions, it helps you breastfeed, it helps labor, all of that, but it's typically known as the love hormone. So you do have to be relaxed and a good space to have those contractions, meaningful contractions that work well. So kind of back to where I was when we were deciding what to do with our birth. It was right before our 20-week appointment, which is known as like the anatomy scan appointment, to make sure our baby is doing all well. And I just felt this constant like pull that we're not supposed to plan a hospital birth and we should look elsewhere, like a home or a birth center. So I text my doula the night before our anatomy scan just to be like, hey, heads up. If this all goes well in our anatomy scan, I want to look at other options. And also, doulas are great because they have so many connections. Because I didn't know where to look for midwives or other things because our OB only delivered in the hospital. So if we wanted to have a different experience, we would have to switch providers. So our anatomy scan came, everything was perfect. And so we're leaving the clinic and I go to Landon. I'm like, hey, I want to start looking at birth centers. What was your reaction to that?
Well, yeah, like I said, I didn't really know anything about it at the time. So I was a little bit in shock. And again, my mind went straight to, was that safe? Like, do they have the tools? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Which I want to be safe too. That's also my first priority. But I wanted to know if we could do this safely. So we got on a call with Landon's cousin who had a recent home birth. And she's a nurse. So we also got that perspective of someone coming from the conventional medical world and then still choosing a home birth and why she chose that. And so I think that helped your comfort levels a lot too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think the class that we took too, it gave me more information on it and I felt more and more comfortable. Every week we went to that. It was a 7-week class.
6-week class.
6-week class.
Yeah, we went to a 6-week class. It was 2 hours every week. And we learned a lot and we got our workbook and everything too. And what was the key takeaway from the class that you got?
The key takeaway?
Yeah. What did you take away that you really liked?
I mean, honestly, anything I say about birth that sounds any bit educated probably came from that class because I think I did learn a lot. But overall, I just think I learned more about the whole entire process of like what the woman's body goes through. And I just got more comfortable with a home birth in general because I knew like what they would do in certain situations and what your body was going through and why. And so, I mean, I don't know that there was like one key takeaway. I just felt more and more comfortable with it all. And it helped me understand and cope with like the different things that you were going through because I knew what your body was doing. So I thought it was all really interesting.
Yes. And there were 15-ish couples in there and all of them were doing home or birth center, which was surprising.
Mm-hmm.
They said that that's never really happened before and there's usually some hospital ones that they're planning. But we did an exercise in that class with the cards. And do you want to explain what that key takeaway was or do you want me to explain it?
You can explain it.
Okay.
It sounds like you're going somewhere with it, so I'll let you.
So we did an exercise that like we learned all these things that can happen in birth and all of our different options to like create your birth plan that you want to do.
It kind of like highlights your priorities.
Yeah. So our baby's crying, so I want to see if she's falling
crying in her
asleep.
sleep. Her eyes are closed.
Yeah, did you know babies cry in their sleep? It's really fun. But yeah, so we had these cards and so you like created your perfect birth plan and then each time our teacher would tell us like, okay, you need to take one away. What are you going to take away? And so it could be like home birth versus hospital birth. You know, you have to switch something.
I know you're going for this now.
Yes. So you have to keep doing that until the end. Basically, the point of it was everything is okay. But the most important part at the end that you're never going to switch is like mom safety and baby safety. So as long as mom is safe and baby is safe, then that's our whole goal of our birth. And so we have this birth plan going into it, knowing that that is our goal.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, even the first day of the class, the teacher basically said, hey, okay, close your eyes, think of like your ideal birth and what that looks like. And then she said, now scrap it, because like you kind of have to expect the unexpected. You just don't know how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's probably not going to go the way you thought it would, especially for like if you're a first time mom. And so I thought that was really good because it kind of got you comfortable with like, okay, something may happen. That's fine. Like,
Yeah, it's a good prep of being a mom in general because nothing ever really goes as planned.
yeah.
We're going to pause right there and I'm going to go get my baby. And
Again. My goodness. If we're doing a podcast, she just knows. She's like, I'll give you 10 minutes. Okay. So you were saying.
We're back. Our baby is now asleep.
Your baby.
Yeah.
So possessive.
I know. She's back sleeping like an angel. Okay. Anyway, we were talking about the birth class and then we chose to have a home birth. And birth center versus home birth, we mainly did it because our nearest birth center is like almost half an hour away. And they're essentially the same, but if you don't have the space at home, it's great to have a birth center. And if you have some space, you can have it at home. So that's what we planned. We had a great space. We were renting a tub. And yeah, we went on as planned.
Yeah, and in Texas, you have to be within a certain range to have a home birth. Otherwise, it has to be in a hospital.
37 to 42 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we knew that going in. So we had to make it to that 37-week mark. And if you go too late over the 42-week mark, then they bring you to the hospital to induce you. So most midwives will have their induction strategies if you start getting near the 42 weeks, which a lot of first-time moms, they go a little bit later. So we were prepared for that. What we weren't as prepared for is coming early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
So that's the next part of our story. At 37 weeks and 2 days, my water broke. And it was my day off of work, and which was good. I went to my midwife appointment that morning, got checked out. Everything looked great. Picked up my tub. I went home, decided to take a nap because I was very tired that day. And then I felt it happen, a little pff, and then my pants were wet and I'm like, oh no. And in my head, I'm like, did my water just break? But also I didn't want to jump to conclusions as I'm pregnant. And sometimes you pee yourself a little bit, I've heard. Yeah. So I felt that. And then I'm like, oh no. So I text my doula. Also why it's great to have a doula in my opinion. This episode is just really about you should get a doula, I guess. But yeah, so texted her and her response was how much and text her midwife. So that's what I did. And Landon had an important day at work, so I didn't want to jump to text him or anything until I had to. So I'm trying to figure it out, what's all happening. And
which is wrong. You shouldn't text your husband right away.
Yeah. I was trying to figure it out. And by the third little gush, and I was running out of underwear at that point. I'm like, okay, my midwife calls me and she's like, at this point, I feel like your water broke. So you have to go and get it tested to see if it's amniotic fluid. But if it is, we can't do a home birth or a birth center because you're too early. So we would tell you to go to the hospital. And at that point, I'm like, well, our hospital is closer than the birth center. She's like, okay, just call Landon, have him come home. You're not in a rush. You're not having contractions yet. So pack your bags and go once he gets home. So I did. How did you feel getting that call?
Well, I mean, even going through the birth class, like, yes, expect the unexpected, but I feel like all the movies, the water breaks and you rush to the hospital. And so I kind of thought after the class, like, that's not how it happens. Well, that's actually how it ended up happening. So when when you called me and you're like, originally I don't know if you texted me, but you like said I think I like peed a little or something like that, and I was like, well, what color is it? I asked the question that they asked in the class, probably like your midwives, but
Yeah.
but yeah, when you called me and said it's time to come home, like you got to come back, my water broke. Yeah, I was more in shock. I was like, oh my goodness, this is really happening. So it was kind of an adrenaline rush. I had to tell, I was supposed to give a big presentation. I had to be like, sorry guys, I have to go, having a baby. It still felt a little surreal. I didn't really know if it was actually happening, because a lot of times you'll start going to labor and then things will slow down, you'll stop. So I was kind of in disbelief a little bit, but you said come home and I was not going to wait on that. So
Yeah.
rushed home.
We had just in case bags packed.
Yeah, we had
so
go bags.
they were like 85% done. We just had to do the final few things, which felt like forever because I was running around trying to figure out what to put in there.
And by the time I got home, you were like, oh, I'm not going through contractions. But by the time I got home, you were actually contracting. You were on a chair, like having a contraction when I got home. And then it got really serious.
Then, it was pretty mild, but I didn't want to freak anyone out. But yeah, so we go to the hospital. It was all positive, and for amniotic fluid.
We went a little further to the hospital that your doula recommended, because they have a NICU attached. Because if you went to the hospital nearest us, they didn't have a NICU. So we would have had to transfer out if there were any complications.
Yes.
And being that the baby was a month early, there could have been complications. So we went to one in Fort Worth, Texas, that had a NICU attached to it.
Yeah,
which
very
was a
good
great
one.
call by our doula again.
Yeah. And so my midwives actually got all of my information transferred to the midwifery group there. And so they were able to accept me that same day. So I just needed to test positive for amniotic fluid. Yes, she's going into labor. And then they would take over from there. And so that's what happened. The difference, in my opinion, from the hospitalist versus the midwife group was night and day. I'm sure the hospitalist that was on call and checked to make sure, yep, I'm going to labor, did the ultrasound on me. I'm sure she had the best intentions. In my experience with that, it just felt a little bit rushed and impersonal. And then the midwifery team came to us and just felt like we were protected by them, and they were doing anything to let us have the birth experience we wanted.
I will say, I think the hospitalist was good. I think we were at a different point in time where she was trying to figure out if you really were in labor and stuff. And it was, I think at that point, you're a little more rushed to make sure we know exactly what's going on. By the time the midwife group takes over, they know you're in labor.
Sure.
They're trying to work you along. So I think there's a little more like urgency when hospitalist was taking care of you versus the midwife group. Sure. So I will say that.
Yeah.
But I was still in disbelief when we were with the hospitalist doing that check of like, okay, we could still get sent home.
Yeah.
If you're not far along enough. But it was when she was like, oh, you're leaving this hospital with a baby. Then it got real.
Yeah. So with that, we got transferred to our room, got everything set up. I was still like having contractions here and there. But yeah, I think in that aspect, it went really well. You and my doula took turns with like the back massages and just like helping me through that back labor and the pain. So there wasn't a time that I was like, give me the epidural, which I hear most of the time someone like gets to, usually around that transition when you get to 10 centimeters. But I didn't feel like that. There was definitely times I was like nauseous, but then that passed. One thing that did happen was I was 35 weeks. So typically when you're 36 weeks, you get tested for strep B. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that you were 37 and a half weeks, but you were 35 weeks.
Oh, did I say 37?
Yeah.
35.
That's why we had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, I was 35 weeks and 2 days. Mm-hmm. So 36 weeks, you get tested for Group B. I think your Group B strep. Anyway, GBS. So that I was too early for that to happen. I was like, can we just test it out? They're like, no. So they told me I needed antibiotics. So I was a little disappointed there since I worked so hard on my gut health. And then they're like, now we need to give you antibiotics. But I ended up saying yes to that so we could prevent any possibility of group B strep transferring to our baby. But I think those are the only real medications I needed. Since I was 35 weeks, I was also required to have the continuous monitoring on me. But I ended up signing the AMA to have the intermittent monitoring, and that went really well because then I could walk around the room. I didn't have to be connected to all the wires, and I could kind of do my own thing a lot more.
And I think, again, like the doula was kind of like, you don't have to have this. You can, you can sign that to do it the way you want it.
That was one of the nurses.
One of the nurses was super helpful, but I feel like the doula was there suggesting that or making sure that you knew your options.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yes, for sure. So, yeah, I don't think there's too much to report. We just kind of did our thing throughout. My water broke at 11:45 in the morning, and so then I started having contractions about an hour later, and then, it was about
12 hours of labor.
Yeah, our baby was born 12:21 a.m. The next day, but yeah, I had the best experience I think I could have in that environment. It was as close to a home birth as I could have got. I didn't get like the water birth, that kind of thing, but by that point I did not care. And people after were kind of like, oh, I'm so sorry that you didn't get the experience you wanted. But honestly, I wouldn't have had it any other way just because it all went so well. And next time, hopefully I get a home birth.
Yeah, they were super accommodating. I felt like they met like most, if not all, of your requests and stuff. And even when it came to the actual delivery, they usually like a light, like an overhead light on you, and they were graceful enough to say, okay, we can hold off on that until after you deliver the baby, and then we'll turn it on. But
yeah, the midwife that actually delivered did home births for like 10 or 15 years. So she was very comfortable of doing it in a low light setting, whatever position I wanted, that kind of thing too. Yeah.
So yeah, after labor, after the 12 hours of labor.
You caught the baby.
Oh, you want to just jump right there? Okay, yeah.
Oh, what were you jumping to?
We don't have to give any more details. I didn't know how much detail you wanted to give on like the pushing. It was like 1.5 contractions and you
like 2 pushes. And that was it. Oh, yes. I will say that.
You let your body do your thing.
Yes.
You were really in
just
tune
kind of
with
like breathing through everything, through every contraction. And during our birth class, it was a lot about
submitting to it.
Yeah, submitting to it as much as possible, breathing through it, and then waiting for that significant urge to push until your body can't not push to actually do that. Otherwise, you can get too tired, more risk of tearing, that kind of thing. So I was having those urges to push prior to that, but I didn't think that they were going to be strong enough, so I just breathed through them.
And you were able to take some like naps between contractions, which was good, kind of conserving your energy.
Yeah, they were kind of like 8 minutes apart at one point, so I was kind of like dozing off in between. My doula and Landon were great at getting me water and just offering me my water.
Well, we weren't offering, we were just putting it in front of your face.
Yeah.
Then you would drink or you wouldn't.
Yeah. And then like applesauce pouches.
They were also, I mean, I don't know. I've heard that some hospitals they don't want you eating food or anything like that. And they were also very accommodating with that.
Yeah. I think the nurse kind of just left the room so she wouldn't have to see it. So we wouldn't get in trouble. That was maybe part of it.
Yeah.
And I ate before we went because I knew I heard you need a lot of energy. So I did eat lunch.
A lot of places, I feel like a lot of hospitals like won't let you eat, or they'll have like ice cubes or something like that. And we learned in the class that it's actually, and people might have different opinions on this, so I want to be open about that. But we've heard that it's good to eat because you're running a marathon. Like it's good to have that energy.
Yep.
And not be depleted on those like nutrients that your body needs to carry you. So
yeah, we don't need to starve. yeah, so yeah, it was like 2 pushes. I was standing. They said, okay, we're close, so get in the position that you wanted to be in. So I ended up standing like at the foot of the bed with the bar, and then I had one foot like on a stool, so I was asymmetrical. And and yeah, so they were like monitoring the baby, doing the intermittent monitoring with the Doppler on my stomach. And my midwife, who's my like original midwife, came to the hospital as well because she couldn't be like on the team since she didn't work for the hospital, but she came as moral support, which I thought was lovely. So she was very helpful, and she was helping hold up my gown. And during that monitoring at the end, she's like, "Wait, are you crowning?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so. This is what I've been trying to say." Because I knew we were near the end, and I'm like, I feel like the baby's coming.
Yeah, because the doctor that was going to deliver the baby had checked you, but you got in a certain position in which the baby kind of like went back up inside you a little
Yeah,
bit. So
they
she was like,
have
"Oh, you're not really quite there yet," and you were also not, you weren't moaning in great pain or anything like that. So she was like, "Oh, we're chilling, we're good."
Yeah, they have to check you when you're laying on your back, which is not the optimal position. And so I would always regress if I like laid on my back. So that's why I got vertical.
Yeah.
And that's when I like felt the most intense pain through the contractions. And that's what the nurse was like, anytime you feel that most intensity, that means you're getting the most out of that contraction. So that's why I wanted to be vertical, so that the contraction can do its job and so we can get the baby faster.
Yeah. So once she said, "Are you crowning?" Then the doctor looked down and was like, "I need my splash pad. I need this. I need that. Get so and so in here." And yeah.
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 So
Then everything sped up real quick. It was all a blur after that.
Yes.
I do remember some things.
We got into position then. And yeah, you got to catch her.
Yep, I caught her. I mean, really, I had the hard part of catching
Yeah.
her. She was a little slippery, so I feel like really
Yes.
I did most of the work here.
Yeah. It's all on you.
No, but yeah, caught her.
Yep.
Just kidding. I'm gonna get canceled. And handed her up through your legs to you. The umbilical cord was a little short.
Yeah.
So not too short, but it wasn't quite able to reach to your like chest. So she kind of like laid on your stomach. We turned her around. You laid on your back, and she laid on your tummy for a while.
Yep. So we got the skin to skin time for the golden hour, and then
I cut the umbilical cord after it had fully pulsed out. It was fully white, and
so we actually delivered the placenta before you cut it.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So that we can make sure all the blood got to the baby. Because that's really important too, and that's one of the decisions you get.
Yeah, they kind of wanted to cut a little earlier. They were a little bit, "Oh, I think we're good to cut it now," and we're like, "Nope, we're gonna wait a little longer."
Yeah.
And so they allowed us to do that. It was very nice.
Yeah. So we got to do that. And yeah, so we got the golden hour, skin to skin. We weren't planning on going to the NICU prior to that, but she wasn't breathing appropriately.
Yeah, she was kind of snorting, lethargic, or like it was kind of like a little snort in her breathing, and she wasn't feeding, probably because she couldn't quite breathe. She was just working so hard to breathe that she wasn't breastfeeding. So
yeah, and she was tired. So then they tested her blood sugar, and her blood sugar was very low. So then that's when the NICU staff came in, tested her oxygen. Her oxygen was also low. So then she went to the NICU. But we had a plan for that. Part of having the doula, at least our doula, was creating a lot of birth plans. And if this were to happen, what are we going to do? So we knew that Landon was to go with our baby, and then the doula would stay with me. And yeah, so I think if we want to cover the NICU, that can be the whole other topic.
Yeah.
But that was our birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. We got a healthy baby out of it. Everything went pretty smoothly. Again, like probably as smoothly as it could have gone. I mean, obviously the NICU is its own challenge, but yeah, everything went
and well. It just really felt like God led us to every chapter of that birth, because we wanted a more natural experience. We got our doula, who I feel like was just right place, right time. Like finding her, because I actually met her at my pharmacy.
When you were
And
actually about to select a different doula,
yeah,
you randomly ran into her.
yes. So that was kind of odd, but amazing. And then all of the decisions along the way, it just felt like God was leading us there. And then our doula helped pick the hospital with the superb NICU. So everything was just amazing and led us to a healthy baby in the end.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, even this week, a little like parenting IRL, like she rolled from her back to her front, which is kind of funny because she has done that once before, which is right after she came out, after the golden hour time, like the skin to skin time. She, when they went to check her blood sugar on one of those like kind of NICU beds with the heater above it, she put her down on the table, and I went over there with her because you were still getting cared for, and she put her down and went to click a button on the screen, and she rolled all the way to the side of the NICU bed. And the nurse just quickly looked back at me and was like, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "Oh, I saw it." She's like, "You're going to have to watch her." And she had never seen like a baby just roll like a whole 360 over to the side and hit the wall of the NICU bed right after coming out. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, she rolled over this week.
Yeah. So now,
big milestone.
Yeah. She rolled from her tummy to her back a few weeks ago. And now yesterday she rolled from her back to her tummy, which she's been working really hard at. So yeah, that was fun. I don't know all the like milestones exactly when they're supposed to happen. But she's 4 months, 3 months adjusted. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. No, she's doing well, and she will tell you when she's frustrated that she can't roll over and stuff. She get a little more vocal. But yeah, it's been fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think like a lot of times, right? I mean, some expectations. I think that like from a dad side of things, a lot of people are like, "Oh man, you just feel this immediate connection with your baby," and when she comes out, and when he or she comes out, and so I didn't really know what to expect because like they're not really interacting with you. You can't help them feed because they're breastfeeding. They have more of a connection with mom right away, and so for me, like there was a lot of this expectation, like, oh my goodness, like I'm gonna have this immediate connection. It didn't quite feel it. It was a lot of rush. There was a lot of stress within NICU and stuff like that. I was more concerned with like your health and the baby's health, like making sure you guys both end up like safe and like healthy and all that. And so, but like I did feel this sense of like peace, like nothing. I have a lot of hobbies, and I think nothing in my like everything just made sense after the baby came. I feel like I was kind of at peace. Like nothing else really matters that much anymore. Like I had like a sole purpose. And I think that was kind of my aha moment. It wasn't necessarily this like immediate like bond or connection. Now that she's interacting and like cooing and trying to grab you and all this kind of stuff and laughing, like I think now I feel like really bonded with her, especially after paternity leave. But like right away, it wasn't that feeling. So I guess if there's like soon to be dads out there, it might not be this like overwhelming feel. Some people put a lot of pressure on it and they're like, why don't I feel this connection? And it's like, well, it's not always like that. I mean, so.
And that's a good point because I think we expect that as moms too, to have that immediate connection. And I think I was in shock for the first little bit more than anything. I don't know if I felt like 100% immediate. I think it took a day or so, and like seeing her in the NICU but not being able to hold her was very sad. But then when we like got her first skin to skin and we could start bonding like that, that's I think when it really started picking up.
Yeah. No, well, that's kind of our birth story. I'm sure there's details we left out, but
and there's obviously a lot of details in like pregnancy and postpartum and everything like that that we can go over in the NICU, but all of it's kind of its own feat. So
yeah, I feel like if we were to try to cover all that in one episode, it would take way too long.
Yeah.
People would fall asleep on us. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
Well, I hope this helped. I know there's a lot of decisions to be had when you are pregnant and you're thinking of the kind of birth you want. Obviously, the most important part is that you're both safe in the end, but there are some decisions to be made that can make your experience better or whatever that looks like for you. But
I think it's just good to know like what your priorities are going into it and kind of have that in your head so you know like what you're gonna prioritize when certain scenarios happen. But I think everyone's experience is different, and that's why like going back to like take what you think your ideal birth is and just like throw it out the window because you don't know exactly what's gonna happen or how it's gonna go. It's good to have an idea of like how you'd like it to go, but I think everyone's experience is gonna be different because there's so many different scenarios that can happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Want to go into Q&A?
Sure.
Okay.
What questions do we have?
Okay. First question I have is what foods are healthy for pregnancy/labor? Pregnancy and labor or labor.
Okay. So, pregnancy and labor, you do need to have more calories during pregnancy. I think that's commonly known. I hear eating for two a lot. It's not quite that many calories, right? I think typically a good like weight gain can depend on everyone. My doctor said I can gain like around 35 pounds, which I was a month early. So I think I gained around 30 pounds. But I was hungry a lot. I never got nauseous. So I was expecting that to happen, but that never really happened. Protein, though, having sufficient amount of protein can help reduce the risk of nausea or lessen that. So I definitely wanted to make sure I had a lot of protein in my diet. And my midwives had me record it for a week, and I was typically around like 120 grams a day. So protein, healthy fats. I also have a lot of salads that have like spinach and stuff in it, so that also adds with iron levels. But yeah, just trying to have a well-rounded diet. You are going to have carbohydrates. Try to have like complex carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, sweet potatoes, whatever that looks like for you. And eat when you're hungry. And yeah, we also had the holiday season in her pregnancy. So I do know I had some more sweets than I probably wanted, and that's just how the season goes. But try to balance it with some healthy foods as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then labor, we're told to kind of plan what foods to have in labor. I was planning on making like energy balls, energy bites kind of thing. When I started to like have the contractions and start going into that to kind of get my mind off of it and then have that during labor. But we didn't get that far. So we did pack applesauce.
The reason for the honey balls and stuff like that, though, was because you want something that's easy to eat that doesn't take a ton of like chewing. It doesn't take a lot of energy to eat while you're in labor. Because like if you don't have a lot of time during contractions, you don't want to be stuck with like some kind of food that you're still trying to work through chewing when you go into another contraction.
Yeah, I've heard nuts are a bad idea because it takes a long time to consume them, I guess.
Yeah, you have to think about it. And
yeah. So we did applesauce. I brought some protein shakes.
Honey sticks.
Something that's like quick and easy during that process. I did eat before going, so I had more of a base as well, because you did not get that, and so you were surviving off of beef jerky?
That's one thing I didn't really I hadn't gotten the food yet that I was gonna pack. Like we were gonna make like those balls or whatever, the protein balls or whatever, but I hadn't really packed a lot of food, so I had beef jerky ironically in the pantry, so I grabbed that and I had protein bars. So I survived 12 hours on beef jerky and protein bars. I think before, when I was at work, I had a salad, so I was like hungry when I got home.
Yeah.
It was not ideal. Beef jerky, protein bars, and coffee. Lots of coffee.
Yeah. I remember hearing that the man can have whatever they want as long as it doesn't annoy the mom. And so I heard like crunchy things are out because you don't want to be annoying. But I do remember you having coffee and then coming up to me and seeing how I was doing. And I was like, get away, because I could smell the coffee and it was making me nauseous.
I approached you one time with the coffee in hand, and that was bad. Yeah.
Was
I
that
usually ate when you went to the bathroom and stuff like that. I tried to like break it out when you were busy. And the doula was like helping you, but yeah, I brought coffee to the bedside one time. It was a no-go, but you were like you were in the zone, and like, yeah, you just said coffee, go out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, so that was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and electrolytes. We talked about that a little bit last time. So lots of water and electrolytes if possible too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One other question. What was one thing that you wish you had for labor, or one thing you couldn't have done without?
I don't think I could have done it without my doula. So I 100% recommend the doula.
Plug for the doula.
Yeah. What was the first part?
Just one thing that you wish you had. One thing you wish you had for labor, or one thing you couldn't do without. I was thinking you were going to say your water bottle.
Oh, yeah. I'm really glad
with the straw.
Yes. I got the hydro jug that has the straw. And so if you put the straw down, it doesn't spill, which is why I love the hydro jug. But yeah, that was very helpful because I used to just have this water bottle and that doesn't have a straw. So they would just come offer me my water bottle with the straw and just put the straw in my face, and then I can drink it if I wanted to. And so that was really helpful too.
We also, for me, we had my hands got tired massaging mainly like your lower back during contraction, so it was helpful. I think the doula had
she had the TENS unit.
That was really nice. I don't know that's not everyone will have that, but we also had like my massage gun.
Yeah.
And I think that was really useful because that took a little pressure off having to use my hands every time. So that was kind of nice to I think maybe distracts you from the pain a little bit.
It got the job done, but the hands were better. Mm-hmm. And our doula showed you what to do to like with your hands to make it feel
She gave
right.
me like the technique.
Yeah. Because when we started, she was like, helping with the, what's it called? When you're like counter pressure. Is that what?
Counter pressure.
Yeah, the counter pressure. She was helping with that. And then Landon would go in and I'm like, no. Do whatever she's doing. Because that did not feel
We had
good.
learned some counter pressure moves in the class because we practiced that in the class.
But it's so hard to know.
She had some different ones that we didn't see.
Yeah.
That you actually ended up preferring.
Yeah. And it's so hard to know like what's good until you're in it. Because I didn't know what the pain was even
when your body's
like
changing. So like when we did it back then, it was a little different than like when we did it at the hospital. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, that's good.
Okay. Any other questions or is that good?
Those are what I got for today.
Okay. Great.
So now I want to go into. I'm just gonna tell a dad joke. I think it'd be a fun segment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dad joke.
This is my idea. If people hate dad jokes,
No, I like it.
That's too bad. But
let's see how good your dad joke is.
Yeah, you can rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 if you want. That's
okay.
I can do that. Okay. Here goes. What does a baby computer call its father?
Call its father?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Data.
That's not bad.
Yeah, like data. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty good. What do you give that one?
7.
Okay, I'll take a 7. That's actually a pretty high rating for you in dad jokes because I feel like I say a lot of dad jokes and you don't really appreciate them the most. So
yeah,
I usually get an eye roll, but cool. Well, there we go. That's dad joke of the day.
Okay, I like how it was baby related.
Yeah, you like how I did that? They're not all going to be baby related. I don't know that I can find enough that it'll be baby related, but I heard that one a while back.
Can the internet help you?
Probably, yeah. I'll have to Google some.
No, I meant people on the internet can help you.
You can send in dad jokes. Yeah, we'll read them off for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but if you have questions for the pod too, you can also submit it to our Instagram at Moline Method.
Yep. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends.
Yeah.
Give us a 5-star review.
Okay. My dog is right in my lap right now.
Yep. Hello, Titan.
Good boy.
And yeah, visit our website. We'll be posting these on there as well. And
MolineMethod.com.
MolineMethod.com. Yep. But yeah, and that's all. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.
Bye bye now.